The deep space patrol of the Valari Empire was silent when the signal appeared. It was not supposed to exist. The galaxy was full of strange sounds from young worlds, but this one was different. The transmission came from the third planet of a small yellow star. The coordinates matched a primitive species called humans. They were listed in the Empire's records as weak, unorganized, and not worth serious attention. Yet the signal was not weak. It was strong, sharp, and clean. No fear, no desperate cries, only calm words spoken in a language that the alien machines translated with ease. The words were simple. They were not asking for mercy. They were not screaming. They were giving coordinates. They were inviting them in. The commander of the patrol ship, a tall Valari with silver eyes, stared at the message again. It repeated every hour with no change. It was steady, almost like a heartbeat. He had seen many species at first contact, and they always begged or hid. But this was the first time he had heard a primitive world calmly announce its position. It made no sense. Around him the crew whispered in low voices. Some thought it was a trap. Others thought humans were too foolish to know what danger they were in. The commander said nothing. He only ordered the fleet to set course for Earth. As the ships neared the solar system, sensors picked up strange patterns. Earth satellites were not falling into chaos. They were not sending distress. Instead, they moved with silent order, shifting positions in ways that reminded the commander of war formations. He felt a coldness inside him. It was the same feeling he had before battles with enemy fleets. He studied the planet. Blue oceans, green land, white clouds, a soft world. It looked too peaceful for a species bold enough to send out a signal like that. The closer they came, the more unsettling things grew. Probes that were launched toward Earth were destroyed within minutes, not by powerful weapons, but by precise strikes that hit their weak points. The humans never responded with anger or panic. They did not shout. They only cut down each probe and stayed silent. The commander felt the tension rise. The crew started to believe that humans were not as weak as the record said. Still, the commander reminded them that Earth had no starships, no colonies, and no known allies. They could not stand against the Empire. Also it should have been. When the first Valari scout ship entered Earth orbit, the humans sent another transmission. This time it was not coordinates. It was a simple voice, calm and steady. The words were strange to hear from a species so young. The voice said, "We know who you are. We know why you are here. You are not the first to come." The commander's blood ran cold. He replayed the message, certain he misheard. But it was clear. The humans spoke as if they had seen empires before. That was impossible. The Valari were the first to reach them. No other empire had claimed this world. Yet the humans sounded certain. The crew grew restless. Some demanded to retreat and call for reinforcements. Others wanted to test human defenses at once. The commander held his hand up and ordered silence. He felt something he rarely felt in his long years of service. Doubt. The humans had no right to make him doubt. They should have been like all the others, crying or begging, but instead they spoke like equals. He stared at the blue planet below and wondered how much was hidden beneath those oceans and continents. Hours passed, and the Valari decided to test Earth's reaction. They launched a small drone attack on an empty part of the atmosphere. It was meant as a warning, nothing more. But before the drones even entered the lower skies, missiles from hidden silos struck them down with terrifying precision. The explosions lit the darkness above Earth. The humans gave no words of anger, no threats, no pleas. Only silence. The commander felt that silence more than any raw battle. It was the silence of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The Empire's record said humans were young. The record said they had only simple rockets and weak weapons. The record said they were not a threat. But the records were wrong. The Valari commander now understood that first contact with humans would not be like the others. They were not panicking. They were not afraid. They were waiting. He turned to his officers, his voice heavy. They knew we were coming. And with those words, the crew felt a chill run through them. Because if humans knew, then nothing about this mission would be simple. The engagement that was supposed to be easy had already been shattered before the first shot was fired. The Valari fleet held its position above Earth while the commander weighed his choices. It should have been simple. A young world, no starships, no colonies, no allies. Normally, such a planet would surrender within hours of first contact. Yet Earth was different. The humans had already shown calmness that did not belong to a primitive species. They did not beg. They did not plead. They acted as if they had expected the arrival of the Empire all along. The commander felt the unease spreading through his crew. Soldiers whispered in the corridors that the humans had studied them, that they had planned for this moment for years. None dared say it aloud, but he could feel their fear building. The humans sent another signal. Again, the words were simple. Speak. That was all. No title, no rank, no plea. Just a single word that carried weight heavier than threats. The commander responded with a transmission of his own. He told the humans that their world now belonged to the Valari Empire, that resistance would only lead to destruction. He expected anger, or maybe panic, but instead the reply was chilling. A steady voice answered, "You are mistaken. This is our home. You will not take it." Then silence returned. No shouting, no weapons fired. Just silence, and the confidence behind it. The commander decided to test their resolve. A strike team was sent to Earth's surface. They landed on an abandoned coastline, a place with no cities or defenses. Their mission was to capture a few humans and show the population that resistance was useless. But within minutes of landing, the strike team was ambushed. Hidden soldiers emerged from the forest, not with primitive spears or outdated rifles, but with weapons designed to disable, trap, and confuse. The Valari soldiers fought back, confident in their superior strength. But something went wrong. Every move they made, the humans seemed to predict. Every formation, every tactic, the humans countered before it was even executed. The strike team called for emergency extraction. By the time the shuttle reached them, half of the squad was already down, not dead but bound and captured. The humans had taken prisoners. The commander could not understand it. How could a primitive world with no spacefaring power fight like this? He interrogated the rescued survivors. They told him the same thing. The humans knew their movements before they acted. The Valari fought as they always had, with strategies honed over centuries. But the humans had read them like an open book. They were not improvising. They were prepared. The most unsettling part came from the soldier who had been closest to capture. His voice shook as he recalled the human who bound him. He said the man looked him in the eye and whispered, "We've studied you too." Those words spread like fire through the fleet. Rumors grew. Some said humans had spies within the Empire. Others claimed Earth had long been watching the stars and recording alien battle from afar. Whatever the truth, the fear was real. The commander ordered silence among his crew, but whispers carried through every corridor. He tried to dismiss it as coincidence. Perhaps humans were simply lucky. Perhaps their ambush was nothing more than good timing. Yet he could not ignore the look in his soldier's eyes when he spoke those words. He had seen fear before, but this was different. It was a fear of facing an enemy who should not exist. To break the growing doubt, the commander ordered a demonstration of power. The Valari fleet unleashed a barrage of energy beams into Earth's atmosphere, lighting the skies above the oceans. It was meant to terrify the humans, to remind them of the Empire's strength. Yet the response was not terror. Earth's satellites shifted again, this time moving with such precision that they blocked several targeting scans. And then, without a word, humans sent back an image. It appeared on every Valari screen at once. It was a recording of their strike team's ambush. Clear, sharp, and undeniable. It showed Valari soldiers being captured with ease. The message beneath the image was short, "We know your playbook." The commander's chest tightened. His officers looked to him, waiting for orders. He wanted to say the humans were bluffing, that they were still weak, that this was still a simple conquest. But deep down he knew the truth was different. The humans were rewriting the rules of engagement. This was no longer first contact. This was something far more dangerous. That night, as the Valari ships floated in silent orbit, one thought echoed in every mind aboard. If humans already knew their moves, then what else were they hiding? The commander could not shake the final words of the human transmission as he stood at the bridge window, staring at the blue planet below. "This is our home. You will not take it." The Valari commander gathered his fleet captain for council. The room was heavy with unease. Reports from the surface still burned in their minds, showing soldiers trapped like children by humans who should have been primitives. The commander spoke firmly, trying to cut through the doubt. They fight with tricks. They use knowledge they should not have, but knowledge cannot stand against true power. His words sounded strong, but even he felt the weakness in them. Power had failed once already. He needed to know more about the species. He needed to test them in a way that would strip away their tricks and reveal their true limits. Before he could decide how, the humans sent another message. The fleet received it on every channel, translated instantly. It was not a plea, not a warning. It was an invitation. The message said, "If you wish to measure us, come to our grounds. We will show you how we fight." The Valari captains exchanged uneasy glances. Never had a young race spoken to them with such boldness. One captain hissed in anger, demanding they burn the planet at once. Another whispered that it might be a trap, but the commander felt something deeper. A challenge. Against the advice of his officers, he accepted. He would not strike with a full fleet. Instead, he would send elite warriors to face humans on Earth soil. He believed the Empire had nothing to fear from a controlled test. They had faced hundreds of species across the stars. No primitive planet had ever matched them in combat. This would prove the humans were only lucky, nothing more. The day of the test arrived. Valari soldiers in silver armor descended to a large valley chosen by the humans. It was vast, with broken ridges, dense forests, and rivers winding through rocky terrain. The commander studied it from orbit and felt unease again. It was a perfect ground for ambush, for traps, for a clever defender. Yet the humans had given them the choice to accept or refuse, and he had already accepted. The signal to begin echoed through the valley. At first, all was silent. Then the Valari squads moved forward, spreading out with disciplined formations. Their scanners picked up nothing. No movement, no energy trails. But when the first squad entered the forest, explosions erupted around them. Not powerful enough to kill, but enough to disorient and scatter their ranks. Hidden figures slipped from the trees. Humans, small in number, lightly armed, but fast and precise. They struck at weak points, vanished into the terrain, and struck again. The Valari fought back with fury, but the more they pushed, the more the terrain itself seemed to turn against them. Nets, pits, smoke, and strange mechanical traps blocked their paths. Every hill and river crossing was prepared. The humans knew the land as if it were an extension of their bodies. Valari's strength and discipline began to crumble against creativity and chaos. On the command ship above, officers watched the live feeds in shock. The humans fought with no pattern, no predictable strategy. Every move was different. Every attack came from an angle no Valari had trained for. And the most chilling part was their faces. They were calm. Even when outnumbered, even when surrounded, the humans fought with an eerie confidence, as if nothing could shake them. Hours passed, and the test became humiliation. One by one, Valari squads were forced to retreat or risk capture. Drones recorded scenes of human soldiers smiling as they set off traps that scattered entire formations. At last, the commander gave the order to end the trial. The Valari were extracted, battered and exhausted. Not one human was taken prisoner. Not one human body was left behind. As the commander studied the reports, a single question burned in his mind. How could they fight like this? They had no starships, no empire, no interstellar wars behind them. Yet they fought as if war itself was part of their blood. He replayed a moment from the valley that disturbed him most. A young human soldier, barely older than a child, stood over a fallen Valari warrior. Instead of finishing him, the human offered a hand to help him up. And when the Valari refused, the human only smiled. A smile that was not cruel, not mocking, but terrifying in its calmness. "This is not war," one officer whispered. "This is their training." The word spread through the fleet like fire. If this was only training, then what would true war against humans look like? The commander had no answer. He looked once more at the blue planet turning below them, a planet that should have been weak, but was rewriting everything he thought he knew about combat. That night, in the silence of his quarters, he finally admitted the thought that had been haunting him since the first signal. The humans were not learning from the Valari. The Valari were learning from them. The Valari fleet floated in orbit, their confidence shaken. The so-called test had been meant to prove human weakness, yet it had revealed the opposite. Soldiers whispered that the humans fought like predators born for battle, not a young race stumbling into the galaxy. The commander did not silence these whispers, for he felt the same doubt gnawing inside him. He had seen armies break before, but never had he seen discipline unravel at the hands of a species that should not have been capable of such cunning. To find answers, he ordered the intelligence corps to dig deeper. They scanned human transmissions, hacked networks, and intercepted signals bouncing across the planet. What they uncovered made a commander's blood turn cold. Earth was filled with records of war. Wars across centuries, across every continent. Images of burning cities, endless trenches, skies filled with fire. The humans had never known peace. Even when not fighting outsiders, they fought each other with weapons that rivaled small empires. The officers reviewed footage of old conflicts, expecting chaos and disorganization. Instead, they found strategy, deception, and an uncanny ability to adapt. In one recording, soldiers fought against overwhelming odds, building traps from rubble and turning broken machines into weapons. In another, civilians resisted armies with nothing but will and courage. Again and again, humans had faced destruction and refused to surrender. Each war seemed to carve something deeper into them, something that no other species carried. One scholar aboard the fleet, a historian of alien civilizations, studied the data with growing horror. He reported to the commander in a trembling voice. "This explains it. They are not strong because of technology. They are strong because of memory. Every generation has lived with war. They do not fear it. They prepare for it. They expect it." The commander stared at the scholar, unable to deny the truth in his words. The humans had trained themselves for ages without even leaving their world. By fighting themselves, they had built an instinct sharper than any empire's drills. Worse still, the files showed something the Valari could not comprehend. In every great human war, even when cities burned and millions died, humans always rebuilt. They rebuilt faster than logic allowed. They adapted faster than reason explained. Where other species would have collapsed under the weight of such destruction, humans grew harder, more cunning, more dangerous. It was not only their armies that carried this resilience, but their entire species. Even their children's stories spoke of survival through pain. The commander tried to reassure himself. Perhaps this endless cycle had broken them, made them reckless. Perhaps their strength came at the price of stability. But when he replayed the recordings of the war games, he saw none of that. He saw discipline, control, and something that chilled him most of all, patience. Humans were not rushing into hopeless fights. They were planning, waiting, striking with precision. It was as if they had taken the lessons of centuries and forged them into muscle memory. The rumors aboard the fleet deepened. Soldiers whispered that the humans were not fighting at full strength, that what they had seen was only a shadow of their true power. A captured Valari from the first ambush gave his testimony in a hushed, broken voice. He said that when he was bound, a human soldier leaned close and spoke. "You are lucky. We are holding back." Those words spread like poison through the ranks. Holding back. The idea alone was enough to keep warriors awake in dread. The commander summoned his officers to the bridge. "We cannot treat them as primitives any longer," he admitted. "They are something else. Something forged in fire. If they ever choose to fight without restraint, we will not stand." The room was silent. Not one officer dared to argue. Each of them had seen the same recordings, heard the same whispers, and felt the same growing truth. That night, the commander stood alone at the viewing window, staring down at Earth. It looked so calm from above, blue and green, a fragile jewel in the void. But he now knew that beneath those oceans and lands lived a history soaked in blood, a species that had never broken no matter how much it bled. For the first time in his long career, he felt not just doubt, but fear. As the planet turned slowly below, a thought pressed against his mind like a shadow. If this was what humans were like on their own world, what would they become once they stepped fully into the stars? The galaxy had no answer yet, but the commander suspected it would not like the one that came. The Valari Council could no longer ignore what the commander had discovered. Reports from the failed trial battles and the endless human war archives painted a grim picture. Yet pride would not let them retreat. The Valari Empire had never been humiliated by a young race. To admit defeat now would mean weakness before the entire galaxy. So the order was given. The full armada would strike Earth and crush the Defiance once and for all. The commander, though uneasy, obeyed. Hundreds of warships gathered in formation above the blue planet, blotting out the stars. From orbit, it looked unstoppable. The Valari ships, gleaming with silver hulls and powered by weapons that had reduced countless worlds to ash, descended in tight formation. They unleashed a warning barrage into the upper atmosphere, turning the skies red with fire. The message was clear: surrender, or be erased. Yet Earth did not respond with fear. No pleas came. No white flags appeared. The humans remained silent. Then the satellites moved. What looked like harmless machines drifting in orbit suddenly shifted into precise patterns. They linked, sending signals back and forth, weaving a net around the planet. Valari scanners struggled to cut through the interference. Communications flickered. Target locks failed. Entire squadrons reported that their systems were being jammed. The commander leaned forward in shock. Humans had turned their simple satellites into weapons of confusion. Still, the Valari pressed forward. They launched waves of drones, each carrying enough firepower to level cities. But the drones did not make it far. Hidden railguns on the planet's surface fired upward with terrifying accuracy. Swarms of missiles streaked through the sky, tearing drones apart before they could reach their targets. The humans had built a layered defense that no record had mentioned. The Valari responded with fury, sending their main ships into attack runs. Beams of energy slashed through the atmosphere, striking at military bases and coastal defenses. Explosions rocked the surface, yet even as smoke rose, counterattacks came. Fighters launched from underground hangars humans had kept hidden. They were primitive compared to Valari craft, yet they flew with reckless daring, weaving through barrages, forcing Valari ships to break formation. On the command bridge, the commander realized something chilling. The humans were not trying to destroy the armada. They were trying to divide it. Every strike they made was calculated to scatter the fleet, to cut it apart into isolated pockets. And it worked. Squadrons became separated, unable to regroup, their communications broken by the satellite net. Valari ships began firing blindly, afraid of the shadows around them. Then came the final twist. A human broadcast pierced through the jamming, reaching every Valari ship. A calm voice spoke, steady and cold. Your fleet is not ours to fight. It is yours to fear. At first, the words made no sense. But then chaos erupted. Valari ships turned on each other. Their own targeting systems were corrupted, their friend or foe codes rewritten. Beams tore through Valari hulls as the Empire's proud armada ripped itself apart. The commander slammed his fist against the console. Shut it down. Restore control. But it was too late. The humans had not only jammed their systems, they had taken them. Ship after ship fell in flames, some destroyed by enemy fire, others by their own allies. The once proud fleet of the Valari was breaking itself without the humans needing to touch it. In the middle of the chaos, a message appeared on every Valari screen. A human commander, face calm and eyes steady, stared directly into the camera. "This is not conquest," he said. "This is warning. Leave Earth. Leave our skies. Or learn what war truly means." Then the broadcast cut. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. The commander's fleet was shattered, their pride broken, their weapons turned against them. For the first time, the Valari felt the truth settle in their bones. The humans were not simply defending their home. They were teaching the galaxy a lesson written in fire and fear. As the damaged survivors retreated into the void, the commander could not escape the thought that burned in his mind. If this was how humans fought when cornered on their own world, what would they do when they carried their war into the stars? The Valari fleet limped away from Earth, broken and humiliated. Out of hundreds of warships, fewer than half returned intact. The survivors carried not only scars but also silence. No one spoke of victory. No one spoke of honor. The images of their own ships tearing each other apart under human control haunted every mind aboard. For the first time in centuries, the Valari Empire had tasted defeat, and it came not from an older, stronger power, but from a young world no one had thought worth fearing. The galaxy noticed. Signals traveled faster than ships, and word of Earth's defiance spread like wildfire through the stars. Other species, minor empires, trading guilds, and hidden colonies watched in shock. For ages, the Valari had stood as an unstoppable force. Now, their shame was broadcast across the void. And at the center of it all stood humans, a species barely stepping into the galactic stage, rewriting the story of first contact with every move. The Valari High Council demanded answers. They wanted revenge, but the commander of the failed armada spoke bitter truth. We cannot crush them as we did the others. They are not weak. They are not unprepared. They fight with patience and with memory. To attack again would be to invite extinction. His words angered the council, but deep down, they knew he was right. Pride could not erase the fear that humans had carved into their empire. On Earth, the humans remained calm. No parades, no grand speeches. They did not celebrate the defeat of the armada. Instead, they returned to silence, as if nothing unusual had happened. But silence itself became the loudest message of all. For the galaxy understood, humans did not need to boast. Their warning had already been written in the wreckage of Valari ships drifting through the void. When the Valari attempted to negotiate, humans did not beg for peace. They did not ask for mercy. They offered terms, clear, firm, and sharp. You will not step onto our world again. You will not dictate our future. If you cross into our skies, you will be met with war. The word spread beyond the Valari, carried by traders and spies to every corner of the galaxy. A primitive species had done what no one else dared. They had set rules for an empire. The shockwave of this act rippled far beyond Earth. Smaller species, long afraid of Valari conquest, began to whisper, if humans could stand, perhaps others could too. If humans could fight the Empire to a standstill, then perhaps the galaxy was not as unbalanced as it seemed. The idea was dangerous, and it spread faster than fire. The Valari tried to suppress these whispers. They reminded the galaxy of their strength, of the countless worlds they still controlled. But no matter what they said, their defeat lingered like a wound that refused to close. And every time someone spoke of resistance, they spoke the same word, humans. On the flagship of the broken armada, the commander stared at the stars in silence. He had once thought humans were an error in the records, a mistake of intelligence. But now he knew the truth. They were something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Not the strongest, not the most advanced, but the most relentless. A species that treated war not as disaster but as memory, carved deep into their bones. He recalled the last human broadcast, the steady voice that had echoed through his fleet. This is not conquest. This is warning. Those words were etched into his mind. He realized then that humans were not simply defending Earth. They were shaping the future. They had shown the galaxy that engagement could be rewritten, that first contact did not mean submission, that strength could come not from ships or weapons but from will. As the Valari retreated into the dark, other empires began to prepare. Some sharpened their blades, fearful of what humans might become. Others reached out with cautious offers, wondering if alliance was safer than war. But one truth was certain. No one would ever see Earth the same way again. And on their blue world, the humans watched the stars with quiet eyes, waiting. They had not sought this fight, but they had answered it. The galaxy had underestimated them once. It would not make that mistake again.